Yo guys, what's going on? It's Max. Today's video, I wanted to talk about the Tools of Torment tweaks, or the upcoming patch that will be going live within the next couple days, I imagine, which is going to address some of the core issues behind the Skull Merchant, kind of some frustrations that players have had, and to make some slight rework changes to make her a little bit more engaging of a killer. I'll leave the patch notes in the description below if you guys want to just check that out, click through it, go for it. You want my 2 cents on the opinion? I think they've addressed a lot of the unhealthy play styles that come from her kit, but she is a little bit weaker, predominantly because her kit was so strong at 3-genning, and they've addressed that, which is really good. I just want to, like, blanket statement, I think that removing her potential to 3-gen is just healthier for the game. Balance-wise, I mean, she was weak, and she's getting, in my opinion, her best playstyle nerfed, so it's interesting to see how the new playstyle that develops is really going to make her better or worse, but that's just my quick 2 cents on it. I'll get into the details now if you haven't actually seen through the patch notes. The things that they have notably addressed is that her power doesn't help her enough in chase. I think a lot of people would agree with that. The drones didn't really have much value in chase. You just kind of pushed somebody either away entirely from the loop because they didn't want to get exposed, or if they were already injured, they didn't care. There's not enough risk to having a claw trap. All that really happened was you got detected by it. Didn't really do a whole lot, admittedly. So I think that was also a very apt point. And the third, and probably the biggest one that a lot of people were a little bit frustrated with, is that she was too good at holding 3-gens, which caused very long matches. Now, I wanted to say, like, they're making the objective statement that she's too good at holding a 3-gen, and games went on for a very long time. This is not a statement from them saying it's fun or unfun, but I think a lot of the community can kind of sympathize and recognize that 3-gen games are not necessarily fun for either side. Survivors don't like trying to break a stalemate for 20 minutes, and the killer doesn't like patrolling a small route over and over again. So I think all of these are pretty key points that they wanted to address for her kit. Now, really quickly, I'm going to go through all of the changes because it's kind of important to look at all of them in a collection to see kind of what's changing from her and what I expect to kind of happen with her playstyle. So they kind of just mentioned, you can be exposed for a while. Claw traps didn't really threaten you much, but it's not a threat when you're already injured. So, like, things that I brought up, the way that they're adjusting it is, here is a paragraph to pay attention to. The Skull Merchant will now gain a growing haste effect for each survivor tracked on her radar. This is a 3% bonus for 1 survivor, 5 for 2, 6 for 3, and 7% haste for tracking 4 survivors. Now, granted, claw traps and active drones contribute to this. So if you are in the active drone range when it's popped mid-chase, she is gaining one of those tracked survivors to then get additional haste speed. And if you have a claw trap on you, because some people just like running up and dismantling the drones, not only are you still being tracked, but you are also now giving her a speed boost to chase somebody else on the map, which is really good. I think a lot of people may not recognize that 7% haste is pretty significant. I think, once again, I'm sorry, I keep referencing Scott if you guys watch his videos. He made the good point, like, if you guys have ever used, like, Hope as a perk, like, you'll know that smaller movement speed percent changes can be pretty significant. Not to mention there's people doing the whole, like, Blood Pact and Power of 2, which my friends and I did. It's kind of crazy how fast you can move. But either way, good 7% movement speed when you're in chase tracking all 4 people. That definitely does help her chase power quite a bit. I am a big fan of that. Although admittedly, I don't have enough experience with some of those numbers, so I kind of want to see in practice how effective that is. Additionally, vaulting a pallet with a claw trap will cause the pallet to break, destroying the claw trap in the process. And for those of you who kind of paid attention, that is the brown add-on that I talked about before. In the other video where I wanted to talk about some changes and things that I'd liked, I wanted this to be base kit, and it's base kit. So I think that now you actually have a little bit of a detriment to having a claw trap. It might not happen all the time in game, but the good thing is this frees up an add-on slot for people's builds. And the add-ons did get reworked too. I'll talk about that in a second. And so now I actually like it. Like this was an add-on that I thought would be kind of necessary to run just for like a quote unquote low entry, like low tier add-ons, but still impactful build. And now it's base kit, which is great. Now those are all good buffs. So let's take a look at what I think was kind of the nerf slash adjustment that needs to be talked about, which is her gen defense, because she was very good at defending a 3 gen. Now, I did talk in my last video where I said that everyone is good at a 3 gen, but I think most notably with the Knight and the Skull Merchant in particular, their kits have a innate synergy with delaying you when you want to go to a generator. Either the Knight's natural game delay of setting up a guard, and then if you try to go in the radius, the guard attaches to you, and you basically hold W away for like 12 to 24 seconds. And that's really the counterplay to it, but it forces somebody off of a generator for at least that duration, gives you time to run over, kick it, reset it. The Skull Merchant, very similarly, was kind of a unhackable drone duration for a certain number of, or certain duration. You needed to go in, hack it to disable it, but then you're being tracked. So there's just some delay naturally trying to make the generator safer. Otherwise, you're just exposed and you have to leave the gen way earlier. She doesn't need to chase you when you're exposed. She'll just kick the gen, walk away. So this was like the problem of her gen defense. And most notably, which is probably the biggest thing, once you hacked the drone, you get a claw trap on you, her drone immediately comes back. She just has to walk up, put her drone up again, and walk away. And that was powerful, to say the least. Like, it was very frustrating, natural, consistent game delay to go over. So the way that they've addressed this here, drones are no longer immediately returned to the Skull Merchant once they are disabled. Instead, they will be returned once their respective traps are destroyed. Which means if you get a claw trap on you, you are actually denying her an entire drone for the duration of the claw trap. I think that's pretty significant. And most notably, it's because a lot of her potential to deny 3 gens was in the quickness of getting drones back up for the natural amount of game delay. But now you cannot just keep putting more drones on top of generators. Just really quick to keep going through it. Claw traps cannot be held indefinitely, so they will instantly be destroyed as soon as the battery expires. Claw trap batteries will no longer refill when entering an active zone, so they're always there for a set amount of time. I believe this is 60 seconds, maybe it's 40. But regardless, the battery's not going to keep reactivating, so no matter what, the moment your drone gets hacked, you have about a 60-second window to get it back. Now, granted, the claw trap battery may no longer refill, but I do believe that the battery life will still stay at the same value if you are in the drone range. So it might be a little bit more, like in almost all cases, you're probably going to get a little bit more than the minimum 60 seconds, but it's probably not by too much more. And then the last thing, drones will enter an unhackable state whenever a survivor with a claw trap is near, which is really good because now you don't have one survivor who's like, once I got a claw trap on me, I have no risk. Let me go do all the drones. You have to get the value off of multiple people. Like, one person cannot get multiple drones worth of denial. And then there's the add-on changes really quick, just so I could, wrap up all this before we go over it. The brown add-on, it takes half as much time to become undetectable. So now it's like 1 second to be undetectable. Probably not great. It's still kind of the same weird audio drop off that I talked about before. Expired batteries, since claw traps now provide haste, this is the one where all the claw traps spawn in at the beginning of the match on their shoulders for a 150% duration, but now they reduce the duration to 40% of the normal battery life. So if you want to run this purple add-on, presumably you have 24 seconds of 7% haste to basically capitalize on getting to the action more quickly. This probably would be pretty good with something like Lethal Pursuer. You know the direction you got to go right away. You got 7% haste, make it count, get the first hit, get that first down relatively quickly. And then here, length of undetectable effect goes up. Prototype rotor, very rare add-on. I don't remember which one this was, but some of her add-on rarities were a little bit off, so I'm not even going to go over this one too much. And then the streams got adjusted, but that's besides the point. I wanted to talk more about the Skull Merchant stuff. So essentially what this boils down to in my mind is that she can no longer 3-gen nearly as effectively as she was in the past, because giving her a movement speed buff does not offset the natural game delay that came from trying to hack the drone once it's on your body and so on. So I do think that this is, in a sense, a nerf, because her best playstyle is getting weaker. Now, granted, I like I said, I want to make sure I'm giving enough context for everything. I think this is a healthy change for the game. I genuinely think a lot of people are not a fan of 3-genning, playing with it, playing against it, and this is one of those scenarios where I think that with getting that movement speed buff and the possibility of pallets just breaking when you try to vault them, it results in a killer that might try to go for slowdown with anti-healing. I mean, granted, she could have done that in the past, but I think that maybe just some kind of natural game delay of keeping people injured if you can, especially if the claw traps can't, if they're meant to be a little bit more dangerous in chase. You know, you can have a pallet get pre-dropped on you, loop them around that tile set, they vault it, it breaks, you go for the down. And if you try to keep them injured throughout the game, then that helps, because I think it's still, as it currently stands, you're probably not going to get people exposed through the drones. In my opinion, if you're getting exposed through the drones, it's probably just because she's still relatively new. I think as time goes on, people are going to learn it's not really a feasible like win condition to play around. So I genuinely think that the best part of her kit is trying to capitalize on this movement speed and either use that to continuously pressure other survivors, or just try to make her an absolute menace and chase. So I don't have any particular builds that I think I'll be working with. Granted, this does not only affect generator defense, but this does also affect what I liked using her for, which was defending hex totems. I can't just constantly have drones cycling over my hex totem, because same thing. Once you have all 4 of your drones controlling key objectives, the moment someone takes one of those drones off, you now just don't have access to that drone to, you know, defend something arguably more impactful like a totem. So I'm interested to see how this is going to play out. I think that she's going to be a killer that is now designed for more chase potential. Maybe the natural slowdown with anti-healing might be a unique approach to go for her. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I am kind of curious to see what you guys think, because overall, I think this is a healthy change. I just, like I said, I want to separate healthy from balance, because healthy change, I think most people are going to be really happy with this change. Obviously, there's still some tweaks we could work with. You know, I think that the whole oblivious versus undetectable thing when you're in the drone is more in line with kind of what the thematic approach should be for her. The exposed stuff probably still doesn't happen nearly as often, but this is a good step in the right direction. I'm really happy to see that this is the approach that they're taking. And I think this just makes her a little bit more of an interesting killer. Really quick, just looking at the screams that they were talking about. The screams are going back to being 2D and being heard map wide. I don't know. I didn't really use any of the perks that did the screaming stuff. So this change, if anybody actually found some tangible thing of why they liked or didn't like it, let me know in the comments below. I'd actually appreciate it. Kind of interesting thing to listen to talk about. But thank you so much for watching. Sorry this video did take a little bit of time. I just kind of wanted to go over my thoughts on the Skull Merchant and possible builds, maybe some interesting stuff to look over. And yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Hope you have a wonderful week, and take it easy, everybody. Peace.